Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Leadnap Gaming. Is the Star Runner the best rock mining transport? Is 28 SCU better than 2 SCU? Is the Pisces a sleeper?
Systems activated. Systems on.
Last week, I produced a video about the best starter ships, where I looked at the new Nomad and I declared that the Cuddy Black still reigned supreme, and that the 125A was the best ship worth starting with if you didn't want to spend $115, with a whole lot of other exceptions that tied on. That garnered a whole lot of comments, which were awesome to discuss with you all, but a trend began to show that I figured was worthy of digging deeper into. When it comes to ships, and really a lot in Star Citizen, we get down into the weeds and hung up on paper details. Anyone who ever served in the United States Army and had a West Point lieutenant knows this lesson, but I realize that's not the most universal of experiences. The same sort of thing is comparable when we talk about vehicle specifications. A Chevy Suburban on paper has better numbers than a Ram 1500, for example. You get an extra row of seats and the same legroom in the second row. But you also have double the cargo capacity of the truck. The Ram has 54 or 61 cubic feet of cargo depending on the bed and cab configuration, while the Suburban has almost 94. Thing is, people with Suburbans still ask me to help them move with my truck. It's no different in Star Citizen. In the Nomad discussion, or I should really say the 125A discussion, there were repeated points made that the 2 SCU of the 125A was a joke compared to even a Mustang, an Avenger, let alone the Nomad. They're not wrong. 2 SCU isn't much, and the 6 SCU of the cheaper Mustang is mathematically more. On paper, the Mustang would then be the better cargo hauler, and therefore should be considered the better starter, right? The point I was making in the last video was that 6 SCU isn't going to cargo haul. 6 SCU may be more, but in reality, you can't cargo haul with 6 standard cargo units. You are physically able to, sure, but the time it takes to just make the cargo run, and the few hundred credits it yields you, is time better spent doing any number of the PvE missions for thousands of credits. Even when we look then back at the Nomad, surely 24 SCU is good, right? The point there was, not really. 24 SCU isn't bad, and for the price point of the Nomad, you certainly can't get any better numbers. PvE missions still give you more money per minute though. This is what I was talking about when I said there was a threshold for cargo running, where the Cuddy Black carries enough cargo at 46, where the time spent and the profit yielded outperforms a number of PvE missions. This means you can profitably run cargo in a Black, where in the Nomad you can't. Doesn't mean you can't do it. On paper, the Nomad is a solid ship, but in practical terms, the only feature the Nomad brought to the table that was an out-of-the-box success was that the ladder's impossible to climb if the ship owner doesn't want you to. But Led, what about the cargo deck carrying a rock? Oh, we'll get to that, but I want to finish this starter portion first, and I don't mean this to be a rebuke of everyone's comments, though admittedly this is faster to say here and clarify than write it over and over and over in multiple comments. On paper, the 125A is inferior to the 325A or Avenger as a fighter. This is not a disputable point. The weapons are smaller, it hits softer, and it doesn't have near the same shield capacity. I didn't declare it the starter everyone should have because it was a great fighter. In fact, when you put a 125A next to a 325A or a 315P, it's very hard to make the sale on why the smaller and lesser on paper ship is worth having, let alone keeping, especially when the 125A cost as much as a 300. In a real-world example, though, it's the reason that Ford Rangers and GM's Colorado and Canyon lineups sell for as much and more than the quarter-ton truck segment. There is nuance here, but size matters. At least for now, the 125A spawns on ground pads, not to mention it can fit in the Carrack and anything else that has a hanger. The ladder on the 300s can be a problem in both that it takes longer to use, but likewise the animation can glitch and place you on the roof. The Nomad also has this issue. The 125A offers run-on, run-off capability, which, if you have to take 3 boxes in one by one, is a game changer. The 325 has more. It gets an extra cooler, it gets an extra size 4 hardpoint, size 5 missiles. The thing is, you don't own a 125 to be a solid fighter. The Avenger is a better ship than the 125 in all ways. except it's physically bigger, and therefore can't get into the same spots a 125 can. Nor does it have the fuel, engines, and afterburning power. Which is the real reason I said the 125A is best. You can afterburn indefinitely with a few upgrades, and in stock it still afterburns forever without fuel burn or overheating. You're faster than a number of fighters, and you accelerate better. Not only can you land closer, but you can get in and out of the area faster, let alone the ship itself. In hours of early gameplay testing, these were the real factors that mattered, not the number of weapons. The 125A feature that stood out over the competitors was that a few years into the game, with a dozen ships at your disposal, it will continue to be a workhorse for a lot of the utility flying Star Citizen demands. Eventually, the Avenger, Mustang 300s, and even the Nomad become obsolete to more expensive ships in your fleet. The fuel consumption, speed, and ease of use match the more specialized ships you're due to own, and at that point, you might as well just take those ships anyways. The 125's different. Its paper flaws are the very reason it's worth using, meaning that from day 1 to 1000, the 125A always has relevant use. So what about the Pisces? Well, on paper it's classified as shuttle and not a starter, but that's not why I didn't go with it. Understand it's a photo finish between the two, and depending on what you value more, one is better than the other. To me, the Pisces has worse visibility, and it consumes hydrogen fuel. The 125A will never need to be topped off. Which is the perfect segue into the most controversial fix going on now, and the largest example of paper values being misleading. LED, they're fixing the Nomad and Star Runner fuel issue in 3.12. No, they're not. CIG is arbitrarily adding fuel capacity, a topic for another day on how in a nearly 1-to-1 game, the physicalizing of this is a joke. We're here today talking about practical matters. The Star Runner and Nomad still burn fuel like a wildfire. In fact, that's what they should brand those engines. The majority of the player base is looking at this as a fix because it fixes when they notice the issue. Range. My Ram 1500 gets almost 500 miles per gas tank. If I double the gas tank, I get almost 1,000 miles of range. Problem solved, right? Well, no, because it cost me $50 to fill up my gas tank today. If I double the tank, I'm doubling the cost to fill it up, too. Yes, you'll be able to fly your Nomad and Star Runner longer now, but when it comes time to fill it up, you're going to get hit with a very hefty bill. Today, you can just claim the ship, sure, but don't forget that CIG has promised us that doing so in the future will invalidate your insurance as fraud. The problem then, especially in the Nomad, is that the cost to operate puts you in the 890 jump range. Okay, maybe not that bad, but you get my point. The point of running cargo or carrying a rock is to reduce your operating cost and get the highest profits. If you're spending half a rock haul to fill up the tank, you're going to look for something else. Now, the expandable cargo grid issue, at least where it affected cargo elevators like that of the Nomad, Connie 300, 600, the list goes on, is apparently going to get fixed in 3.12. This is great news, especially if you own a Nomad. This opens up rock mining to a massive swath of ships, and most notably the Nomad. Many of you asked if that were fixed, would I think differently about the Nomad, and the answer is no, just not a hard no. On the one hand, this really does reward those who purchase a Nomad, and rightfully so. I'm so happy this was resolved so quickly, and if offering an $80 premium ship that was broken made CIG resolve this faster, I will forever be in the debt of the Nomad. More importantly, a massive segment of Star Citizens will now likely have at least one ship that can rock mine. Still, off paper, some ships are better than others. In the case of the Nomad, the fuel burn will still be a major issue, greatly limiting the duration of your trip. Though, as long as 30Ks and 1-hour ship spawn timers are alive, this isn't so much an issue for now. The bigger problem I have with the Nomad for this is simply a time factor. Darkosis sent me his data and some video of some testing he conducted in this regard. Practically speaking, it takes a long time to go from the pilot seat to deploying the mining laser from a Nomad. The Star Runner isn't too great either, which should be no surprise. Darkosis is very interested in practicality, so his results are a good lesson for us all. A number of ships didn't fare too well, and in the interest of time, I'll do a video later on all of his results, but there was one notable standout even with the elevator issue. The best ship to take rock mining is the 600 Explorer. This is a fantastic example and summary of the practicality versus paper discussion. Since the 600 offers you a cargo elevator, you can drive on and off, which translates to easy driving that's very quick to achieve. The Connie also offers this trait, but the engines of the Connie make a tunnel at the back that the landing struts of the 600 don't. Furthermore, the hitbox on the Connie's engines are larger than the model, so if you drive in or out from the back, you need to be very careful and slow. The Connie elevator is operated from a button, so you have to get out of the rock, walk around the whole elevator, and hit it. This also only works after the 312 fix, because until the fix happens, you have to be in the rock for it to stay on the elevator. In 311, you'll need to split the profit with a second player who can hit the buttons for you. The 600, on the other hand, has a base click, which can be reached from the driver's seat of the rock. So in 311, you can sit in the vehicle and make the elevator go up, also taking you up. 312 and onward, the shape of the elevator is such that even if the base click went away in favor of the two control pads, it's still really easy to stay on the elevator and click them. Even with the world's slowest elevator, the 600 beats the Star Runner in pilot seat to pilot seat time. The Valkyrie also tested at the top, and since you don't have an elevator, that's one less issue to worry about. Problem with the Valk, however, is sluggish flight characteristics and no pilot-controlled guns. Also, the ladder doesn't always work, leaving you marooned looking at $250K in profit parked on your cargo bed with no way to reach the pilot seat. Which is again where the 600 rolls in as king. It has great shields and very powerful armament, which the pilot controls. Other rock carriers can't do both. They're either slanted offensively or defensively to deal with the occasional griefer. This meant as well that if an org mate needed help, you could pack up your rock and fly to assist, where other ships you'd need to dock and then spawn a different one. Lastly, the 600 enjoys Origin's fuel scoop tech, so unlike the other rock movers, hydrogen fuel is not an expense on your ledger. Game, set, match. Now, it shouldn't be a surprise that the two $475 offerings perform rock mining better than anything else. It might seem like pay to win, but it's just a practical reality that an expensive ship is going to do more and do it better. The $75,000 Denali has more convenience than the $23,000 F-150 XLT. For $80, the Nomad gives you the ability to rock mine, the ability to pull in those big UEC numbers. There's no denying that value, and it's a reason that I've told people to buy them, including close friends starting out in the verse. I still stand by spending $20 more and grabbing a Cuddy Black, because on paper and off, it offers you a lot more than the Nomad does. No ship is perfect. The 3 small shields on the Nomad offer you way more than the single medium of the Black. If you care more about shield performance, make your choice accordingly. Despite saying the 125A is the better starter, I still recommend the equally priced Avenger because while in the long run the 125 will serve you better and more faithfully, the Avenger on day one gives you more. I think the Aurora is superior to the Mustang, but the Mustang gives you $5 extra credit, a practical consideration that outweighs the superior paper performance of the former. So what do you guys think? Let's continue this conversation in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and share this video with your friends, subscribe if you haven't, and I will catch you all next time.